Hello, everyone. My name is Valerie Grace. I'm the orientation coordinator on campus, and tonight I get to be the wonderful MC for this session. Give yourselves a round of applause for being here. Thank you so much. Before we move forward, just a couple of things. As Ashley shared, we will be recording this session, so you don't have to write everything down. But please feel free to engage with us as much as you want. So we have somebody on a camera. If you all want to turn on your cameras, we love seeing your faces. A couple of housekeeping things is if you want, please feel free to change your name on there. That way we can call on y'all accordingly. If you have any questions throughout this panel, we do have some of our set questions that we'll be asking our panelists. But if you have any of your own questions, please feel free to put it in the chat. Or if you would like to share it out loud, there is a raise hand function available through Zoom. So it should be under the React section. So if you click React at the bottom of your Zoom, there should be a raise hand function. Or if you can't find that, feel free to put in the chat, I have a question that I would like to ask out loud, and we will go ahead and call on you. Otherwise, just to make sure that folks don't talk over anyone, we're just asking folks to have their mics muted unless you are sharing something out loud. We want to make sure everyone can hear what our panelist is saying. Now, really quick about me, y'all probably are like, how come you get to be the MC and not anyone else? Well, let me tell y'all, I get to be the person that's welcoming your students to our campus if you do decide for them to come here. I also have the wonderful opportunity to work with our parent supporter programs and our transfer student programs on our campus. We are housed under Student Leadership and Involvement Center, where we support your students from orientation to graduation. Y'all are taking the right step by being here. We're also joined by two amazing parents who have been parents to a pioneer for a while. One of our parents is a parent to a senior, so this might be their last semester being a parent to a pioneer. But I'll let them introduce themselves. Christine, you have your mic unmuted. You want to start us off with introducing yourself? So, name, hometown, city, your student's year and major, maybe even a fun fact. And after that, we'll jump over to Michelle.
Sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Christine. I was born in the Bay Area. I still live in the Bay Area, and I've lived here my whole life. My son is a senior who's graduating in May. I can't believe it. He's a music major. Um, I guess a fun fact I will share with you. So we're a music and outdoors loving family, and music and outdoors have always been like a big part of our lives. We go to a lot of concerts and festivals, and we're very active outdoors. We do a lot of camping and hiking, and we also go to Burning Man every year. So that's kind of a fun fact to share with you.
Thanks. And Michelle.
Thank you. Everyone can read and knows probably by now, my name's Michelle. We live in Elk Grove, California, which is just south of Sacramento. So it's maybe an hour, 40 minutes away from campus. Um, my daughter, my student Sydney, is also a senior who will be finishing in May. She is a computer science major and a music minor.
Wow.
And yeah, and let's see. So a fun fact. So I am an only child daughter, and Sydney, my daughter, is an only child daughter. So we have that in common, and we're about a week apart. She's born on the 7th, I was born on the 13th, so quite a bit in common.
Cool.
Cool. Thanks for sharing. I think it's so fun. We did not do this on purpose, y'all. Like two of your students are intertwined somehow in the major department or in the music department. I love that.
Yeah.
Um, with that said, we're going to start off with our first question. And for our attendees, if you have any questions whatsoever, please feel free to put it in the chat, or like I said, feel free to use that raise hand function. But to start us off, and I'll put the questions in the chat just in case we get lost, is what is it like to be a parent or supporter of a CSUEB student? Christine, because you got to go first last time, I'm gonna let Michelle go first this time. Ooh.
Okay, that's fair. What is it like? It is, it's great, actually. Um, CSU East Bay in Hayward was my daughter's first choice. She loved the campus. You know, as soon as she learned that it's high on a hill and you can look down and the view's beautiful in the evening, she said, "Oh, this is the place I want to be." So it is easy to support her because she's happy where she is. It makes it very easy. The school has a lot of great resources for parents and students. So it's really nice. It's really nice. You know, this is my first time I've ever parented a college student, so it's been really easy, a really really smooth ride at East Bay.
Thanks. Christine?
Yes. I I was kind of tongue-tied or stuck for words on this one, but I mean, it's amazing. I'm just so proud of my son, and all that he's accomplishing, and I'm really happy that and it was his first choice also, to go to Cal State East Bay, mainly because it has a really good music program. And as a mom, I'm part of me wanted him to fly away and have his own experiences, but then the other part of me, I'm so happy that he stayed local because we only live like 9 miles away from the university, so it just worked out really well. Um, and when my friends ask about him, I get the chance to tell them a little bit about a local university that they may not know so much about. And one thing I really appreciate, as a parent anyway, but it's not a really large, like overly large university, which I think makes it not so overwhelming when you're transitioning from high school, because he went to a slightly smaller high school. It was a smaller high school. So even though he had other colleges in mind, I think the music program is why he chose this university. And I think a big benefit was that it wasn't a really huge university. So it just was the transition was really easy. Um, and then because it is a local university for us, I realize not everyone's going to be local, but because it was local for us, it's made it really easy for me to support him. I can even just drive to campus if I need to. Um, take him essentials for his dorm. They're going to, toilet paper, soap, extra food. It's just been really easy to support him because of it being so close. That's like another added benefit. But I'm just really proud of him, and I'm happy to be a parent of a Cal State East Bay student. And it's interesting, they just changed the mascot to the Falcons, right? And that's our last name. We're like, how did that happen? So that's kind of cool. It has nothing to do with us.
Thanks for sharing. That is so funny that your last name is Falcon. And I also loved how Michelle mentioned that it's so easy to support your student when you're proud of them, right? Like it's their choice. And I love hearing about that. Oh my gosh, I'm being inspired by you all right now. Um, this isn't about me though. This is about you all, our attendees, making sure that you all feel confident in your student's choice for this institution. So I'm going to ask one more question, and while we are asking those questions or answering that question, please feel free to write down any questions that you would like our panelists to answer. These questions that we have is supposed to help you all think of more questions, right? These are like opportunities for y'all to learn more about us. So with that said, what has changed in supporting your student in high school or community college if they came as a transfer student to supporting them here at CSU East Bay? Like, has it been a big change, easy, hard, etc.? I know Christine, you had mentioned a little bit about this, which is why I'm choosing this question. So if you want to start, oh, look at that easy transition to having Christine start. So Christine, if you want to start, what has changed from supporting your student in high school or community college to supporting them here at CSU East Bay?
Yes, well, he did go from high school straight to the university. Um, I guess the main, you know, I was a very involved parent, like ever since kindergarten. I was the parent that volunteered. I knew all the teachers, most of his friends. So I was just very involved in his schools. Um, and would even help, of course, in a lot of the decision making, being his, his parent and guardian. Um, and his first, year or two at Cal State East Bay, I was still a little bit involved, but and when he started college, he just turned 18, so he's a little bit on the younger side, but he really just has been really responsible and handling everything on his own. And I just kind of slowly started phasing out. Like I wasn't quite needed, but to help him with these decisions, because I guess I did, I felt like I did a good job parenting, that he was responsible in handling his own decision making. So I guess that was just the biggest thing for me, is that, just like I said, the freshman year, especially, I had a bunch of questions. I wanted to know what it's like and how do you sign up for classes and the housing and all that. But I just became less and less involved, but still, of course, there for him. And we're really close and we talk a lot. But that was the difference, really, just going from being involved a lot, like every day, and helping with decision making. And then in college, they're starting to fly on their own, spread their wings. And I guess one more thing I did want to say, though. I guess the last, his junior year, maybe later in his junior year, and then his senior year, which is this year. Um, oops. I guess the way I have been getting involved in a slightly different way is now the conversations that he and I've been having are a little more based around his career choices, um, and his decisions about that, and then maybe if he wanted to continue and pursue a master's degree. So that's something maybe the last year or so we'd have these conversations, but otherwise, yeah, he's been handling most everything on his own.
I would say, to answer that question, I would say one thing that has changed, like Christine mentioned, just kind of letting out more and more, letting out more and more line, tether, just naturally as their kids grow up, they do more and more on their own. So, high school was a lot of did you eat lunch today? And what kind of homework do you have? And do you need to be picked up or taken to some extracurricular? Now she's out of town and she has a car on campus. So um, just kind of not having to be such an overseer, as our kids go to college. Um, what else would I say about what's different? Like Christine, I'm close with my student too. She tells me pretty much everything, so I don't wonder much about anything. And we raise them and we trust them well enough that don't have to worry about them so much. So the worry is lower, and just really looking forward to seeing her do well. Finish school and kind of get out and continuing to be an adult is a little bit different than high school. High school, you're still like, well, you're going to go on to school and you've got X amount of years left of education. But now it's kind of changed, like Christine said, to a career focus rather than a school focus. And yeah, I'm looking forward to the next chapter.
Cool. Thanks, y'all. Before we actually, I would love to hear a little bit from our guests in the chat, or if out loud you want to share, what year are your students coming in? Are they coming in as a freshman or are they coming in as a transfer student? I think that would help. And Michelle, can you remind me, did your student come in as a freshman or a transfer student?
Freshman.
Okay, perfect. We have a couple of questions in the chat. One of the first questions that came up was, can the student choose their own classes as a freshman if the student already has the classes she wants to take? I'm not sure if you all know this, but I can jump in really quick after you all about classes. If you can't answer the question, maybe we can reframe the question in that, what was it like for your students during their first semester or first academic year on campus? And what was that like transitioning from high school to college and navigating picking their own classes eventually?
So these questions are for Michelle and I.
Mhm.
Did you want to go, Michelle, or?
Oh, you go right ahead. I'll follow you.
um, well, thankfully, my son came from kind of an academically rigorous, kind of a smaller public charter school. So a lot of the university, like the processes were kind of in place at the lower school and the upper school that he went to. But as far as choosing classes at Cal State East Bay, it still was very similar. If I remember correctly, I mean, he just had to, there were, I'm thinking more of the housing, sorry, but there were still deadlines and certain windows they can apply for classes. And I'm not probably answering the question right, because I'm looking at the question here in the text. then I guess I'm not quite sure of that question. I'm sorry, but it was pretty easy for him to pick the classes, I guess is what I want to say. And then he had actually has two advisors, but his advisor was always either one. His music advisor he kind of had a relationship with a little bit later on, but in the beginning it was his primary advisor. But the advisors were very available and they would help him choose the classes to make sure he kept on track for all 4 years. So yeah, sorry, I couldn't spit out my answer there, but yeah, he was able to do it, and the advisors were there for him to give him support.
Yeah, I agree with that. Picking classes, eh, simple enough. They have roadmaps. I think they call them roadmaps. So you go to your advisor and you get a roadmap, and I might map out pretty much all of the credits and all of the requirements that you need. So that makes it really easy. I remember in at her high school they didn't have it, and certainly when I went to college they didn't have such thing. So that makes it really easy. There's really no anxiety about am I going to get the class I need until you get a little bit later on to the upper division classes. So for incoming freshmen, as an incoming freshman, it really was very smooth choosing classes and such. I think we had a little bit more challenge with the housing, with filling out the questionnaire for roommates and things like that. So, but the academic piece was easy.
Thanks for sharing. And then I'm going to do my cute little 2 cents in this part just to help give a little bit more depth. Is just to let you all know your students' first semester here at Cal State East Bay. One, please have your students, especially if they're freshmen, y'all. They're gonna get emails from their academic advisor during the summer. They need to look at those emails because this is their opportunity to help choose what their classes should be like for their first semester. We do what we call bulk enrollment for our freshmen their first semester. They get enrolled in most of their classes, so like their math and English classes, maybe a science class as well, to make sure that they get their GEs, and then they can also choose and fix that up as they need, as they want. They just have to make sure they check in with their advisor. We understand that it's their, especially if they're freshmen, specifically if they're freshmen, it's their first time here. It's going to be their first time like choosing these classes. We want to give them as much support and structure as they transition from high school choosing classes to college choosing classes. But as Christine and Michelle have shared, especially their first 2 years, it's really easy to get all the classes that you need as long as they make sure to check in with their advisor. I'm putting a link in the chat right now to our CSUEB undergraduate degree roadmaps that Michelle had mentioned. If whatever major that your student is in, they can look at this roadmap. This is basically what they should be taking, especially if they're coming in as a freshman student. I know a couple of folks here have transfer students coming in. If your students are transfer students, it's up to them to choose their classes. Honestly, we're like Christine said earlier, we're a relatively small campus, so it's pretty easy to get the classes that they need to graduate, as long as, once again, they meet with their advisors to make sure that they stay on track. But yeah, hope that helps answers the question.
I did. Can I mention one thing? It was something I
Of
was
course.
didn't quite get out earlier, but I'm not sure how all the high schools might be. But for Cal State East Bay, but yeah, there's just everything is like pretty much online systems, so it's pretty easy to navigate. And there are different portals, portal for signing up for classes, portal for signing up for housing, and it seemed pretty easy to navigate. And there's always help if your student needs help. There's always help available.
Yeah. Thanks. Thanks for sharing that. Um, I always love hearing the extra tidbits from you all because we understand the students' experiences. So I love that from a parent and supporter experience, it's also easy for you all. We have a question that I'm also going to once again reframe. How likely is an international student able to get on-campus housing? And we're going to expand that a little bit to say, what are the benefits that you all have seen for your student who lives on campus? And what was that process like?
Housing. I
Yes.
know
So,
I have a lot of things to say about housing. I don't know if Michelle would like to go first. Your daughter lives on campus too, Michelle?
Yeah, yeah, I'll start since mine is probably shorter than yours. Yes, so my daughter has lived on campus for these last 3.75 years. Um, it was very good experience. Like I said, there's a questionnaire that you fill out, and I just learned there was co-ed housing. I don't know why I didn't know that, but so she's always been living with women. But yeah, it was smooth. We never had any trouble with, couldn't get a room or my roommates are not so great or anything. So it's been a really good experience. And I really like the fact that there's a meal plan that's attached to the housing. So I don't have to worry about her, not being able to eat kind of thing. And yeah, it's good.
So my son, his first semester, he did live with me still, and I was driving him to school every day because he actually still doesn't have a car. He's more of a bicyclist. But then, so basically, I do recommend if it's feasible for your child to, I do recommend living on campus. I just think there are so many benefits to that. Um, I mean, just logistically, it's just so much more convenient for them to be on campus. And also they have a lot more social opportunities. Obviously, if they're there every day, all the time, they pass each other on the sidewalk or in the dining hall, in the dorms. Um, they're just so close to everything. And there were times I'd have to pick my son up. You're just driving back and forth, but living on, and obviously if even if you're not a local family, they could choose to live in an apartment off campus. But I do recommend if it's possible to live on campus. And even my son has had friends that had apartments off campus, and they didn't like all the back and forth, and they decided, oh, next semester I'm going to live on campus. um, so I guess a couple things I do want to share. Michelle did mention the meal plan. I love that. It does take that worry out away, but I would still take my son a little bit of food, make sure he had food in his pantry. Um, but so especially in the beginning of the semester, they have a lot of social opportunities. They try to have mixers and get the students to get to know each other and opportunities to make friends. Um, there's free laundry, which I think as a parent, I love free laundry for the students. You don't have to worry about them not doing laundry because they don't have enough quarters or whatever. Um, there's, of course, free Wi-Fi. And actually, if you live in the upper class dorms, they have a full kitchen and a gas range, like a nice gas stove, gas range, oven. It's a full kitchen. Um, and what else could I say about that? I don't know. It's just, and it's so the process that I discovered with my son to get housing, it actually was pretty easy. And what I like about it is, there is, of course, its own portal and, system for housing. And the student makes their own profile, says a little bit about themselves in their profile. And then you can go on and you can see all the available rooms and who the roommates are that have already chosen that dorm or that room. And then you can, learn a little bit about them. And if you think you might be compatible, say a little bit about their personalities, like I'm a night owl or I'm a morning person, and then you can kind of choose who might seem like a good fit. But honestly, as my son was starting his junior year, he was choosing like friends to be in the dorms with. And that worked out really well. But I found the whole housing situation to be very organized and structured. Um, yeah, and it seemed pretty easy to work it out. And he did kind of have a glitch at the beginning of his junior year with kind of not a good roommate. Broke a lot of rules and all that, but I don't need to get into that story. But so the housing department, I actually really appreciate housing. They're very reachable. The RAs are there for you, and even though I've hardly ever had to call an RA, I always have their number handy, just if there's ever an emergency. So I'd always have the RA for that particular dorm building or that building. But I found housing to be pretty responsive, and I've been impressed with some of the housing staff. Because of this problem roommate, I did interact with some of like the RA supervisors, and I found them to be very like compassionate and understanding. Um, yeah, so I do like the housing department, and they have it all structured. When you move in, you get this dolly thing that you can wheel back and forth from your car to the building to help get all the stuff inside. And yeah, it's just all structured and organized. And yeah, I'm sure I
Yeah,
could go on, but that's probably good.
yeah, thank you. I will say I do enjoy the move-in days. They're so much fun. It's like
Yeah,
homecoming or something. It's like
yeah.
it's really a lot of fun.
Thanks for sharing. I'm actually going to jump a couple of questions in the chat because this is still relating to living on campus. So we have an attendee here. Their student is an incoming freshman. Two-part question. What is housing life like after classes? Did your student share anything about what life was like living in the dorms or the residence halls? And does your student go home on the weekends? When they visited campus, it was like a ghost town.
Uh,
Well,
oh, go
go
ahead,
ahead.
Christine.
Oh, we're both saying go ahead. Well, us being local, it is easier for my son to come home on the weekends. Um, and he does come home often on the weekends. However, he does work on campus too, and he does sometimes have to work on weekends. So it really depends upon his work schedule. But he does enjoy going off campus and coming home here, and then he can visit, his childhood friends here. Um, there are so it's interesting being a music major that so my son did say that it can be a little bit quiet sometimes on the weekends. Um, but he is appreciative of like the social opportunities that the university will provide. Um, but since he is a senior and now living on campus, he has a lot of friends now. So I think it's maybe, but he did say it's still might seem a little quiet sometimes. And he said there aren't too many parties that go on in the dorms. However, I shouldn't say this, but no, being a music major and there are a lot of, his cohort, they're getting ready to graduate. They've been having like these jazz nights in like a dorm room. Shh, no, but they turn off, they stop playing when it's the quiet hour. I think the quiet hour is midnight, right? So they stop the music and said they're all respectful. But he's so excited because they're going to have another jazz night tomorrow night. And they had one, I think, last Friday. And so, it's just seniors doing their last bonding before they go on their way. But so there can be some parties. And it sounds like these are more responsible parties because it's musicians and, just playing their music. I don't think it's all jazz, um, but I haven't really heard of like wild, loud parties that are out of control, nothing like that. So hopefully, yeah, I have not heard of that kind of situation. It seems like it's quiet enough.
Yes. Oh my goodness, Christine. My daughter participates in those too. She plays the trumpet and she sings. Anyway,
Oh,
so yeah, she
I
went to the
wonder if I
last one.
know. Wait, what is your daughter's name again?
Sydney.
Oh my gosh, I saw her at the performance. I don't know if it was February. She sings. Yeah, I was so impressed with Sydney.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
she's with the jazz band. Yeah,
Yes.
she was really, really good. And I said hi to her afterwards. Oh my gosh.
Oh,
Yeah, my
thank
son.
you.
Yeah, my son is Josh. I'm sure they know
Oh,
each other, at least a little bit. I didn't mention my son's name yet, but yeah, he's Josh.
that's
Oh my gosh,
funny.
Sydney, you mentioned that. Yes, I've seen her perform. Yeah, she's really great.
Thank you.
Yeah, I
Thank
love her singing, her voice. And yeah, as soon as you said trumpet, I'm like, oh wait, I remember. Yeah, that's so funny. Our kids are playing in the same bands some of the
you.
times. My
Yes.
son's also in the rock band,
Oh
so
boy.
the jazz
But
band, the rock band.
about the campus now, I think that Sydney mentioned, or it's kind of been known to be a commuter campus. So the experience is different than, UC Davis or UC Berkeley in that way. Like you said, it's kind of quiet on campus, not a lot going on. But she seems to enjoy that, and you can always go off campus and do things. And by the time you've been there several years, you do meet, you have friend groups, and you do meet quite a few other students, and hopefully, people that you can continue to uh, commune with, to continue the friendships. But yeah, I think the question was about, I'm sorry, was it about housing?
Or
Yeah, is
housing or
what
benefits.
benefits that you've seen if your student lives on campus, and do you recommend students live on campus?
Yes.
Um, and what it's like on the weekends if your
Oh,
student.
that's right. Yeah. So yes, laundry's big one. Like Christine mentioned, laundry's huge. The weekends, I guess nice and quiet, depending on what kind of personality you have. But you can get off campus, go downtown, go to Union City or Fremont, nearby. So yeah, it's a good experience.
Even downtown Hayward has that I'm not sure if it's 21 and over, but it's the bistro. And some of the musicians, they go down there and play at the bistro, possibly
Yeah,
sit and perform there.
she did.
Um,
Yeah.
one thing I do want to mention about the dining hall, my son calls it the DC. I don't know if it's dining commons, but is it dining commons? I call it dining hall. But um, as I've actually eaten there quite a few times with my son, and I've always thought the food is pretty good and seems really fresh. And they have a really good, salad bar and make your own sandwiches. And in the mornings they have omelets. Um, and I just wanted to mention to some parents if their child might have some dietary needs or restrictions. I do think that the dining hall is so I'm vegetarian and my son was for a long time, but now too much information, but he's gluten free. So he's kind of had to start eating some meat. But I wanted to mention that the dining commons seems to be able to take care of like the more common dietary needs, which, you know, vegetarian and gluten free. They could do a little bit better, I think, in the gluten free area, because, like I said, the last year, my son is now gluten free. So, um, but they do have like gluten free bread, and they even have gluten free. What is it? Because they have this waffle machine, and I'm pretty sure, like the batter, I'm pretty sure they have gluten free batter. So you pour this little, in the waffle machine and put it down, and there's a timer. I don't know. I did it wrong the first time, but they have gluten free, waffle mix and a lot of things that are gluten free anyway, like the omelets. But they do have gluten free bread, which I really appreciate. So sandwiches, toast with your omelet. So, and definitely like me being vegetarian, there's always been something for me. Um, maybe a little more variety would be nice. Like as a parent, it's fine for me. Maybe if I was a student every day, I might want a little more variety, but it's fine. It seems, fresh enough. And like I said, the salad bar, sandwich bar seems really fresh. Yeah. So I just want to mention that if you have any, vegetarian or gluten-free uh, children.
Thanks. I put in the chat too, in case y'all are interested in what our menu is like for we call it our Pioneer Kitchen, but typically it's also called a Dining Commons on campus. We call it the DC. I call it the PK because I don't know, the PK sounds fun. I did put their menu so y'all can see the different types of food that your students could possibly be eating throughout the year. That also has just menus about all the different eateries we have on campus if you want to click through stuff. And yes, Michelle did say the DC or the PK has to-go boxes. So if your student doesn't want to sit there and eat, they're welcome to walk out with their food. Our Pioneer Kitchen is all you care to eat. So it's buffet style. Your student can go in, eat as much as they care to eat, and then head on out. With that said, let's keep moving on with the next question. So this question, we're gonna reframe again. It is, where was it? Where was it? Was it? If a student is enrolled in a specific major and later wants to change the major, is that doable? So expanding that question to you all, did your students change their majors or did they stick with the major that they started with? Um, if so, what was that process of changing majors like? Or what was the process of just choosing major in general? I did put in the chat already. TLDR, your students can change their majors. They just should check in with an advisor to do it for support. Changing majors could lead to a delay in graduation depending on how different that major is, but changing majors here is super doable. Unless you're a nursing student, it's really hard to change into the nursing program. It is impacted. The only impacted course major on our campus. All other majors are chill. But Christine and Michelle, I'm going to challenge. I think Michelle went first last time. So Christine, did your student already have a major, pick their major? What was their major, choosing their major process like?
He has not changed his major. He at some point during high school, maybe junior or senior year, he just knew that he wanted to be a music major. I think, especially with the like he started playing guitar before the pandemic, but I think the pandemic, kind of being more isolated, he started playing a lot more guitar. He even was on Twitch doing these guitar streams, playing like full albums and all that. And so I think that kind of brought out more of the musician in him going through the pandemic. And I think he just realized at some point, I want to be a musician. So he's known from the beginning. I'm really thankful there was not it was not a stressful process, and he never went back and forth between this or that. He just knew from the beginning. So I'm very thankful that he knew what he wanted to do.
So Sydney's story is a little different. She did change major. She started out as a poli-sci, political science major. And then after almost 2 years as a sophomore, she said that she wanted to do computer science. So I was a little nervous about it because, she'd already been in school for 2 years with the other major, but, it's mostly undergraduate work. But it's been seamless. It was very, very easy to do. She did take she did have a summer session that she used to kind of catch up a little bit, which was easy. She came back to Elk Grove and did her summer session online and caught right up, and it's been really easy.
Cool, thank you. Christine, I'm so jealous of your son. I was actually personally undeclared for 2.5 years in my undergrad. And I went to a different institution. But I love that your students knew what they wanted and that our institution had the opportunity to help them achieve that dream, right? Um, with that said, we're going to move on to our next question. I do want to point out we on housing, there was a housing question. How likely is an international student able to get on-campus housing? Just to verify, international students are able to get on-campus housing. In fact, our on-campus housing right now, y'all, is not impacted. So if your student decides to apply, they will be able to live on campus. And after the raving reviews of Christine and Michelle, if you are able, if your student is able to afford living on campus, please, it is a great opportunity. I personally have some really wonderful friends who work at the house within the housing department, and they train their they work really hard to train their students to be as compassionate and empathetic to your students' experiences as possible. Yes, there are rules. The rules are there to help make sure that your students are staying safe. They're not there to minimize the fun. In fact, they are there to maximize the fun and maximize the safety of your students. With that said, we have another question,
Can I,
which,
sorry, can I
of
mention
course.
that, sorry, something related to housing still that I had forgotten to mention that is really helpful. So the residents actually have their own address and their own mailbox. Like for 4 years, they have the same address, and it's very easy for them to get deliveries. And that also makes it easier, if you're not local, but you can support your child if they need some care package, but they have their own address and deliveries and getting the. He actually has this little outdoor mailbox outside. I never even knew until like a month ago. Like you have your own mailbox outside. They're covered, and but yeah, so it's very convenient having their own address, and the deliveries are really easy. I just do want to mention that, and they're secure deliveries, so you don't have to worry about sending them something expensive. It's secure.
I'm a big fan of Amazon. We even have our very own Amazon locker on campus. Just saying, putting that
Oh,
out there.
okay, yeah, he might have
Yeah.
mentioned that. Yeah.
But for our next question, I have a transfer student with or if I have a transfer student with special needs, what is the best way to make sure I can keep supporting my student at home and in the classroom? We're also going to continue to expand that question just in case it doesn't apply to your student. Um, what resources has your student utilized to make sure that they're successful? And like, have we been effective in supporting your students, or our resources, have they been effective in supporting your students? Christine, I had you answer that last question first, but this is kind of a big question. So I'm gonna let you all choose who decides to go first.
Michelle, do you want to go first?
Okay, can you repeat the question, please? Sorry.
Yeah, of course. And then I'll put it in the chat too.
Okay.
Is the original question was, if I have a transfer student with special needs, what is the best way to make sure I can keep supporting my student at home and in the classroom? And then if it doesn't apply to you, what resources do you feel the university provides effectively for your
Oh,
student?
okay. Thank you. Um, one of the resources that Sydney hasn't used often, but I appreciate is I guess, health center, the medical services that are available. If for whatever you need, your kids can start there. So that's a good resource that I really like. Um, like I said, the advisor is a fantastic resource, academic advisor. Um, the move-in days, events like this, kind of allowing people to get to know the campus and get to know actual folks who are involved in the campus is a wonderful resource as people decide whether or not they want to become part of the East Bay family. So those are some resources that I appreciate.
Um, so one thing I do want to mention, if your child is possibly, has any kind of, special needs, there is an accessibility services department. And yeah, so they do have accessibility services, and I found them, we ended up not utilizing them, but we did meet with them in the beginning to see if it was something my son could benefit from, but we ended up not using it. But yeah, the accessibility services, they're very accessible, and the director there answered a lot of questions, and if you have any kind of special needs, they definitely can support your child. And yeah, I recommend getting in touch with them if you have more questions about that. And then also there are different like there's tutoring services, so there definitely is like free tutoring services available. In fact, if I remember correctly, this is from our freshman orientation, so I may not be remembering it right, but I think there are tutors that kind of shadow, they go through all the classes, and so they're familiar with the curriculum and what's being taught, and then your student can, is that, I don't know if that's still happening, but yeah, so there's definitely like tutoring available that you can get extra support for different subjects if your child needs that.
Cool. Thanks. As you all are sharing this information, I'm also putting it in the chat. So there is a link to our accessibility services office. That's their general link in the first link. But if your student does want resources from there, they do support both permanent and non-permanent disabilities and or visible and non-visible. So whatever your student needs, please have them check out our accessibility services office. You can apply for the support in that second link. And I'm putting in the chat a link to our Christine, this might be what you were talking about. We have learning assistants. So they are some of the
Mm,
classes on campus, especially specifically the harder classes. They'll have some students be in those classes and then have supplemental like tutoring, like sub classes where students can go and learn from our learning assistant.
yeah, I think that's what I
Uh,
was thinking of. I
yeah.
do. I don't know when it's the right time. Or if this was part of this question, but I do have some other resources that I did want to mention when it's the right time. My
Yeah,
son doesn't
now
utilize. He doesn't utilize all of them, but
yes, if you all have any other resources that you think that your student or in general students should be utilizing, even if your student isn't, please, this is the time. Once again, this is to make sure that our parents and supporters feel safe and confident in bringing their students to our campus. So if y'all
right.
want to share that information, please go for it. We got you, and I'll put the links in the chat for y'all.
Okay, awesome. Well, I did mention earlier that my son has two advisors. Initially, probably primarily in his freshman year, he was in touch with his academic advisor. And after, I guess, a couple years, she retired. And I didn't realize this in the beginning, but he explained to me later that he has a second advisor related to his major. So he has his music advisor. And at some point, when his academic advisor retired, he just switched over primarily to his music advisor, but she was still very familiar with even things non-music related. So I do feel like that's really, I just feel like, having two advisors at your disposal, that's just even better. We already talked a lot about housing. One thing I want to mention, that so there are a lot of job opportunities on campus. That's another benefit to living on campus. That might be a little harder to find a job on campus if you're not living on campus. But my son actually has gotten a job there. That the job, he actually works at the RA, the Recreation and Wellness Center. He's a operations lead, which sounds so fancy. Um, but yeah, so there are a lot of different various job opportunities on campus, and some of the jobs can be related to one's major. Like there are music and theater techs. There's a job database. I don't remember if it's Handshake. I can't remember, but there's a job database that students can access. to help them find, that right kind of job they're looking for. I do want to mention, as full-time students, though, they cannot work more than 20 hours per week, which is probably good enough anyway, especially if you have a heavy load. Um, yeah, so I both my son and I really appreciate that he's able to work and earn money and get job experience and get more responsibility under his belt, and that he doesn't have to travel off campus because he lives on campus. His job is just right across the street. He works at the RA and the Union. I found the staff to be very supportive, and if he needs to, he's able to reduce his hours as the semester progresses and he gets busier. Um, and I know I had more. Anyway, I guess that's it. There's just a lot of different. There's also food service jobs, and I don't know. There's a lot of different jobs. Um, Also, the university. My son says it happens pretty often, but there are a lot of job fairs, and you can also find internship opportunities at these job fairs. They do have. I don't know if it's a career center, but they offer like resume, help you with your resume, brushing up on your interview skills. Um, there are a lot of seems to be a lot of clubs on campus, um, a lot of sports. I guess apparently there's not a football team, which I didn't realize, but there's pretty much almost every other sports team, I believe. um, and the recreation and wellness center, I did want to mention, that is called the RA for short. And at the RA, they have a gym. They also have a wellness center. There's, maybe, for example, if your student just wants a quiet space. They're called meditation rooms, and you can go reserve this meditation room and just have your own space there. This is inside the RA, I believe. Um, and he said a new program, I guess it's something it's part of the RA, but it's called PA. I guess it's peer advocated wellness. And I guess it's a little bit new, I think. And they have, well, this part is not new, but they have emotional support dogs that come on campus. And I think he said it's maybe 3 times a semester or something like that. And he said he loves it. Like, when the dogs come on campus, they go right past his desk and everyone gets to pet the dogs. And the dogs go into the basketball court, and the dogs are there for anybody. Like, they encourage anyone, not just people that feel like they need some extra emotional support. Just anyone can go pet the dogs, because who doesn't love pets, animals, right? Um, and what else did I want to mention? So I mentioned the paw and the raw. That's probably the bulk of it. There's just a lot of different resources there. Yeah. Oh, and there's also actually this. Yes. So there are therapists available. They even have like group therapy. But my son said he thinks it's a little more common for one-on-one therapy sessions, and he's heard like his peers, his classmates talk about it. And I guess some students have found it really valuable that they can go talk to someone like one-on-one. So there is like therapy, or even just a group support group, if that's what works better for your student. So yeah, I want to mention that too, because that's important to have someone to be able to go talk to. That might be it for the services for now.
I absolutely love how informed you are. We want all of our parents and supporters to be as informed as you are. Michelle, did you want to add anything? That was already a lot, but if there's anything that you would like to add, we would love to hear more.
Oh, no, that was a great list of things. I did drop in the chat that my daughter has had positive interaction with the UPD, University Police Department. They are there. She feels safe. Sometimes she has evening classes. Sometimes, she needs help with her car. Whatever it is, they're available. Very, very positive feedback about UPD.
Thanks. Yes. We actually, during orientation, we have our University Police Department, just in case y'all don't know what UPD stands for, University Police Department come and present to our parents and supporters. And because I see them all the time, I love to mess with our police officers now. I pretend that they're students because they all look so young. But they're really cool. They love interacting with our students. I even got challenged to a hula hoop contest with one of the police officers. I won't tell you all who won or who lost, but know that I'm proud of myself, no matter what the outcome was. Um, we there's a bunch of stuff in the chat right now with a bunch of links. Feel free to um, look through those. I think when we send out the recording, Ashley, you can double check with me. When we send out the recording, the link Usually, if it's directly through Zoom, you'll be able to see what's been on the chat as well. Nope, not on this one. But if you do have any questions, I will put our office email at the end. That way, if you have any follow-up questions, we'll be able to help answer those for you all too. Um, we're about 3 minutes out from 7 o'clock. Y'all, time flies. I didn't even get to ask all of my prepared questions because you all already asked so many amazing questions. We're gonna do a quick round of applause. If you can do like an applause sign or the reaction for our parents here, for the panelists. Thank you so much for being here. Give yourselves a round of applause for asking us such awesome questions. I'm looking through the chat right now to see if there's anything that we can ask quickly. Let me see here. Oh my gosh. Can your student take classes in the Hayward as well as the Concord campus? Do any of your students take classes on both? Or have they taken classes on both? Okay.
Mm.
Um, then I will jump in really quick. I mean, technically you can, right? As just know that when you sign up for those classes, but I don't think a lot of our students take classes on both campuses. Our Concord campus is mostly for our nursing students. I'm getting a yes from Ashley. So there's mostly our nursing students there. Um, so unless your student is a nursing student, um, also our nursing, we have like our nursing, if you are taking classes in Concord, you're probably just going to be on the Concord campus. Ashley, do you want to add anything to that just in case? Because you might be more knowledgeable about that than me.
Right now, our nursing students are housed on the Concord campus. It is an open space for all CSUEB students, so if you live close to the Concord campus, you're more than welcome to utilize those spaces for studying. But unfortunately, unless you're part of the nursing program and if you're required to report in person for classes, you won't be going to the Concord campus.
I also do want to add if your student is taking classes only in the Concord campus, they are still able to utilize everything on the Hayward campus. So students can utilize both areas. Um, it's quite a bit of a drive, but that's okay. The resources are worth it, y'all. I promise. And someone asked at 7 o'clock, really quick, are there opportunities for inclusive sports like basketball or water polo or swimming? I'm just gonna jump in really quick. Although not on we are an NCAA Division II campus. And fun fact, within our division, our men's basketball team went undefeated. Hey, um, it's super awesome. We're super excited for them. Inclusive sports, though, I think if you're looking for more inclusive sports, you would have to look at either our recognized student organizations, our sports clubs, or check out our intramural sports hosted through the Raw. More questions about the Raw? We do have that in the chat. I'm going to give it back over to Ashley. Thank you so much for your time, y'all. Once again, thank you so much, Christine and Michelle. We're so happy that you're here and that you were able to share such positive experiences with us. Ashley, take it away. I know you have one final
Mhm.
announcement for us.
Yeah, thank you, friends. Again, if you have any questions specifically in regards to your student's admission or anything like that, once I stop the recording, I will stay behind to answer any of those questions. However, I would like to be very excited to invite you all to what is called Admitted Student Day. This is an event that I actually went to when I was looking at schools to figure out what school was going to be a good fit for me. And attending this event actually was what made me choose East Bay. This is the event that we host where we basically roll out the red carpet for all of our admitted students. And we have uh, academic departments, non-academic departments. We have clubs and organizations there present. So if you have a desire of wanting to meet your major and actually ask them questions about your major before you commit to the school, that is very doable. We also host tours of the campus along with housing. So if you haven't had the chance to come and check out the campus, this would probably be the best opportunity to, especially if you live outside of the area. I came from Southern California, and this was definitely worth my trip. Um, I would also like to really pound down on the fact that it is free. It is free for your student along with the whole family to attend. If anything, I always encourage more family, the merrier, because that's more people to grant free stuff from our tables that we have to share with you and your student. But we do request you to just sign up just because we want to ensure that when you arrive, we're prepared and we have a nice goodie bag to welcome you because we want to ensure every student leaves with some kind of swag. But what I'm going to do is thank you all again for coming. I'm gonna end the recording now. So stop the recording.